Nice lady up there. He always makes me sit.
I believe we're going to please rise for the invocation by Councilman Danny Seaton.
Let us pray. Your most gracious and Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity once again for us to meet, to pursue the business of the city of Hickory. Thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Impart your wisdom to us as we decide the future of our citizens and our city. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with a special presentation from Friends of Hickory.
Good evening, Mayor Wright, council members, Mr. Berry, Mr. Graham. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here again this evening with you. We come on behalf of Friends of Hickory, a group of citizens that are invested in the community and want to make intentional investments with private dollars in this community. We were with you 6 months ago in March when we asked for the blessing to start designing a park for downtown Hickory, and we come back to you this evening with a concept for that park. For the past 6 months, we have been researching, studying, evaluating, and discussing what type of park would best fit downtown Hickory. We believe that we finally have come to a concept and request your consideration and approval for this concept so that we may continue forward in the design process. We believe that the Friends of Hickory Downtown Park will have 3 components: beautification, recreation, and education. We believe that by fulfilling all 3 components, we attract all demographics and populations to this park, and we can make this a destination in downtown Hickory. We have chosen to work with land design to develop the landscape and work with the company Compan to choose appropriate play pieces to fit into the design. We have also asked that they evaluate and determine a way to highlight the Catawba River chain in the park as an educational component and a way to help show the community the importance and significance of this river chain in our own backyard. This will allow for water features that can be utilized in the warm weather months, but maintained easily in cooler weather. We have a concept and we want to move forward with the design process to finalize our budget and what it will take to build this park. This design process requires money, and we would like to have the blessing of City Council of our concept before spending money towards a project that you do not approve nor like. We have stayed in touch with city staff and intend to continue open lines of communication as we get more detailed drawings. We certainly anticipate making sure that all components of the park will be compliant with federal, state, and local regulations, and want to make sure that we design something that is able to be easily maintained by the city once it is gifted back to you. We ask for approval for us to continue moving forward with the design process and continue to work towards the development of the city lot immediately south of the Community 1 branch in downtown Hickory. We thank you for your time and attention and welcome any questions. You can see that we've put on the screen here the concept that Land Design has come back with. This is the initial drawing. It is just an overview. It does not have great detail, but it gives you some of the components that we would like to be in the park downtown.
Also, I have some pictures of Clyde Warren Park in Dallas, and that was one of the inspirational parks, along with Mud Island, which is in Memphis, and that was for the Catawba River chain. And I will pass out some pictures for you for that. But it gives you an idea of what we see that would really fit in and add to the beauty and activity of the downtown area. consistent with who's sharing. These are just the inspirational. And again, this is the initial process, so this is something we want to continue.
You'll see on the left-hand side, there's some examples of the compan play structures. In this picture, you can see the climb structures, that some of the ideas they have. This is a Danish company. Compan is a Danish company that it has a very unique look. It's different than any other playground in the community. They work towards what they call unprescribed play, so they encourage free thinking for anybody who wants to play on their equipment. It has amazing warranties and very easy maintenance on it. Those were some other choices or reasons for why we chose Compan. You can see some of their slides and some of the pictures there along the side.
I'll ask the question now, maybe okay. I know that at your initial meeting and sometime after that there were some concerns voiced about this particular location and also about the effect that it was going to have on existing parking. And I was just curious if you'd had an opportunity to have some time with those folks and the community, and particularly the Downtown Business Development Association, concerning those issues.
We were able to meet with and feel like we had some successful meetings with the DDA. We were also able to bring city staff into that meeting, and the city was able to talk about where I believe it's 19 parking places that are in that lot that would be lost to the park, but they were able to show very, very easily and very quickly where those places plus more would be picked up. So the lack of parking, actually, that was resolved, and that hopefully was concerned.
Could be compensated for, that we could work with ways that if there's parking became an issue, that they could be added into existing lots, which we and we just had a conversation. I think we are continuing those conversations and wanting to keep talking with them, but we need to know that this is something we can move forward in the design.
The best I can recall, there was also a concern about the particular location and having to cross over a thoroughfare or street to be able to get to it. Is there any other options as far as a place, or is that the only option?
One of the alternate locations that was discussed or thrown out was the potential of using the flag court on Union Square, because it's about of like size. But half the size, I'm sorry. One of the concerns there was if we were to put a play area in the middle of the business district, that would maybe create a bigger parking issue with people coming as a destination to the play area and taking parking away from those businesses that depend on the Union Square parking, and it felt like it would maybe congest and maybe make it even a little more of an obstacle. This continues to move the square westward by using that, and there is a crosswalk on at that thoroughfare that I hope people respect. I know I try to respect, and I'm teaching my children that they always still have to look when they cross, but there is a crosswalk, and there is a plan for there to be a fence with designated entrances into the park that would not encourage a jaywalking or not crossing at the crosswalk.
The gate is going to be over by that crosswalk.
The entrance to the park and the crosswalk will be synonymous, I guess is the best way to put it. They're going to lead right into each other.
Any other questions?
That's all I have.
So what are we looking? I know I personally am all for you. but I'm not sure I know all the questions.
We appreciate the support, Mayor Wright. Thank you. We would like to know that we continue to have council's approval to move forward with the design process, knowing that right now we're showing you a concept and the final design will have to be approved by Parks and Rec, then city staff, then Parks and Rec Commission, and then finally coming back to you with a final design. And at that point, we honestly, when we're able to get to that point, we'll have hard numbers on what the money, the total dollars that we'll have to invest in this project.
And the concept for the space is basically what we're presenting to you today and asking, does this concept fit in with something that you feel would benefit our city and our town?
I think the aesthetics are wonderful. I like the location. You know, it's a central place for our people. There's no excuse for people to say that is not available or accessible to all people of Hickory. It is in a central, neutral spot that all of us own. So I'm all for it personally.
Yeah, and we're just keeping you updated, and that's part of why we're here too. We're trying to let you know where we are in the process and that we're continuing on the right track.
Yeah, I would encourage you to continue to be with those folks that have these questions about parking and that type of thing. I just encourage you to continue those communications.
Yes.
Who owns that particular lot? The city owns that lot already? That's
Well, who owns the lot that Transportation Insight is presently using?
The city does.
So we're going to free up a lot of spots when we do the joint city and Transportation Insight parking down at the Lyerly Mill project.
I think what I can add is, from a city staff standpoint, before this comes to you for final approval, and you know, as they're seeking now, and it's traditional that the council will accept plans done by various people to basically give them a head nod to say, keep going forward, we're in support of this. Before it comes back to you for final approval, staff will have done a full-blown parking analysis. Generally, we feel good about the fact that we have parking downtown. We feel like we have more of a parking perception issue than actually a parking problem. You know, people like to be able to be as close as they can to where they're going. Even when I go shop at Walmart, a lot of times I'm farther away than I am when I'm downtown, but I can see the building, and so I know exactly how to get there. Sometimes when you park downtown, you got to go around a corner or across the street. That's very traditional all over this country in downtowns. It's kind of what makes your downtown area kind of neat and eclectic, and we like that. We're glad it's not just all surface parking everywhere. But ultimately, as it comes back to you all for final approval, staff will have done a full parking plan and indicate where the spots can be made up, and a recommendation that's based on the actual counts of cars that are out there at various times during the day, etc.
Well, if we're freeing up parking there at Transportation Insight, that could be a huge...
That's a piece of it.
Yeah.
We have planned to come to the HTBA meeting when we have a full and final concept ready to share that with them. And we told them that we would love to come in and talk, and they invited us. That's where we are.
Well, I think it's wonderful. I have looked over it carefully, Mr. Burry, and I don't see any Trojan horse in here. I believe this is real. So,
I think it's great, anything that you can do for children. It's wonderful.
For adults too. You can come sit down. This is going to be a great place for you to come sit and have a peaceful moment in downtown Hickory.
May adults go play too?
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, this will be a destination, and it'll be for all generations. So maybe we don't have.
I think you picked the best one of the people that made submission ideas, and I think this is excellent.
Thank you.
Very positive for the city.
We're glad to have friends of Hickory.
We're glad to be friends of Hickory.
well, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see the kids are going to be out there playing with each other. The parents are going to be learning, meeting other parents from other sections that you don't normally run into.
We want to bring people from the region too. That's the goal.
Well, I heard you say destination, and I think it will be, and we're proud of it.
We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then splash pads are just around the corner, right?
This area is water.
Blues, man.
Yeah, well, this is not. This is concept, and this is, again, beginning ideas. We're just throwing it on the paper, but this is the direction we're going in this. This in between here is supposed to be, there's going to be some sprays. And we would like to, as we talked about, what we really want to go through in the design process, if we can bring in the Catawba River Valley and bring in the water. And we are definitely going to include educational components in here. So water is a definite, education is a definite. And then we want strong play areas, unique play areas, and places to rest and sit. So that's the beautification.
And the fact that this spot has mature trees already there, it's shaded, we've looked over many places, we keep coming back to this spot. I think it's the best spot.
Well, another thing I like is we have in this group, we've got a family represented by you were born and raised here, right?
18 months, so yeah. I call
18 months?
Yeah.
And we have a newcomer family who've been here how long?
7 years.
And these folks have come together, and Friends of Hickory is just a very, it's a group of young people, mostly, and with a lot of old-time supporters. But they've come together and gotten to know each other better, and there's been only great things come out of this effort.
And we hope to continue in the future and involve more and more of the community.
We'd
like to make everybody a friend of Hickory.
Yeah.
We think it's a great place
now,
to live.
Now, the first time I met Allison, though, or that I remember meeting you, you had a friend with you that you had talked into moving here too, right?
Yep.
And her husband?
Yeah.
Are they here and settled in and all now?
They are remodeling the house. They are renting right now. They're here.
They moved from Colorado Springs.
Registered.
Yeah, I thought when I heard they moved from Colorado Springs to Hickory, I said it says a lot about the Holsons, but it says a little bit about Hickory too, I think.
There were assets that made it.
So the plan's coming together. It's going to be one friendship at a time. That's what it's going to be.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Jim Bright, Tarheel Challenge Academy, has asked to be heard.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come up and speak on Tarheel Challenge. There's no action that needs to be taken on this, sir. It's just for information and information only. Tarheel Challenge is a program for at-risk kids, 16, 17, 18-year-old, who have either dropped out of high school, potentially going to drop out, kids that have trouble coping with high school surroundings. It's a quasi-military style program. It is sponsored by the National Guard. It's a 17-month program, broke down into two distinct phases. Phase 1 being a 22-week resident phase. They come to live with us for 22 weeks. While they're at the academy, we offer them a chance to get a GED. We teach them life coping skills. When I say life coping skills, I'm talking stress management, anger management, finance planning, family planning, personal hygiene, resume writing. We teach them how to present themselves when they're going for a job interview. They have 24/7 supervision while they're at the academy. They get 4 family days while they're at the academy. Families can come down on Saturday morning, check them out, spend the entire day with them, take them out eating, shopping, and check them back in that afternoon. They do have 24/7 supervision. It is co-ed, male and female. The academy is located in Salemburg, North Carolina, which is about 35-40 minutes east of Fort Bragg. They also get a stipend while they're going to the academy to offset personal items. It's $30 every 2 weeks. It also gives them some financial responsibility as well. These young adults, their day starts at 5:30. They get up, they do PT, they go to chow, and then of course they go to class.
I have to wait. Believe me, you go to school, I have to wait.
But anyway, we have full-time staff down at the academy. We have nursing staff, cadre, full-time cadre, male and females. Males for the males, females for the females. Of course, they stay in their separate barracks. They also, once they graduate the academy, they're assigned a trained volunteer mentor for 12 months. This mentor gives them somebody to talk to, assist them with furthering their education, assist them with employment, or even though it's sponsored by the National Guard, there's no obligation that they have to go into the Guard, but that's another avenue of approach that they can follow as well. They also get a graduation bonus once they graduate the academy. It sort of, the amount sort of kind of fluctuates, but it's normally $1,000, paid out in $85 a month increments, but they have to be gainfully placed, either back in school, working full-time, or in the military. We also keep in touch with a mentor. That's how we keep track of the kids after they graduate the academy. It's through the mentor. The academy keeps in touch with the mentor, and of course the mentor keeps in touch with the kids. Sir, do you have any questions at this point?
The 22 weeks, are you taking people who have not graduated from high school?
Well, we're actually taking anyone that's having any type of difficulty, but yes, sir, we're taking the kids that have dropped out of school or potentially going to drop out, or just kids in general that don't forecast graduation in their future, sir.
How do you identify these children or students, I guess?
Well, normally, sir, you know, I hit all the high schools within my region. I also hit probation officers, court counselors, district attorneys, but anyone that has difficulty with their kids, or the parents want to get their kids a second chance in life and get them back on the right track, that's what this resource is for, sir. The program is federally and state funded, so there's no cost to families to send their kids to us for 22 weeks.
Don't we have a program in Hickory where you can't drop out until after you're 18 years old? Didn't we just recently have something in reference to that?
It seemed like I heard they were talking about that, but I don't want to be cynical, but I mean, showing up and actually working in school are two different things.
Well, it was something along those lines, and I was thinking like it was implemented in the Hickory City schools to where the dropout rate age was raised to 18.
I do know they have an after-hours program at Hickory High School now where some of those students are educated in a separate classroom away from the regular student body.
I know right now we do have 2 kids from Catawba County, one from St. Stephen's and one from Hickory High School, sir, that's scheduled to graduate in December.
Is there an application process they have to go through, I guess, and do you have a certain limit on the number of students you can take? Or?
Well, yes, sir. I normally leave application packets at all the high schools, court counselors' offices, National Guard Armory. They just complete the application, get it submitted. Once the academy receives the application, they will then send out a packet to the family requesting additional signatures, and then once the academy receives that packet back, they'll get a welcoming letter welcoming them to the orientation. That's when the families bring the kids down, tour the facility, talk to the full-time staff, and that's when we do a one-on-one interview with the kids, or the young adults.
So this is a mutual thing. The parents and the young people together decide to do this. It has to be voluntary, right?
Yes, sir, it is volunteer. It is a volunteer. And this is, designed to get the young adults back on the right track. It's just a free resource or a tool to put in your toolbox that you can use. Our website is also on the United Way website as far as a free resource as well.
Have you spoke to Dr. Hart or the school superintendent?
I have not, sir, but I did leave some packets with her or with the assistant.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on the internet real quick. It says that Catawba County school districts are the first in the state to increase the compulsory age from 16 to 18 as a part of a pilot program.
Yes, sir.
So,
good deal.
I'd suggest you get in touch with Dr. Hart and touch base with him.
That's all I have, sir.
Well, I think it's a great program, and I'm sure you could stand here and tell us some wonderful turnaround stories that you have.
Yes, sir. We have a 90% success rate.
90%?
90%?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Well, and I'll tell you what's more important than anything else are those mentors volunteering to help.
That's fine.
It's probably the most important part.
Sir,
Thank you, and God bless you. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir.
And Larry Pope.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Mr. Berry, and Attorney Crone. Thank you for providing me with an opportunity to speak before you this evening because I have some concerns. One of my main concerns is when I looked at tonight's agenda and saw on the consent agenda where there is an item to either be approved or not approved by City Council on utilizing parking revenues for the parking lot that you are going to enter into that you talked about at your last City Council meeting over between 127 and 1st Avenue Southeast. I am wondering why you take money from a source that you have available to you and use that money for something totally different than what it was accumulated or raised for. Just as you used part of that money earlier for the sales on the square instead of for the parking deck that it was supposed to be accumulated to put in the downtown area for additional parking to citizens of the city. What concerns me greatly about that is what is to assure the citizens and voters of our city that if the bond referendum passes that's going to be on the ballot during early voting or on the 4th of November, what is going to guarantee us that that $40 million that you're trying to raise is going to be used for what you say it's going to be used for and not for what you want to use it for? Is this another pot of money that when you make up your minds you're going to use it for whatever you're going to use it for and not what the city either turned it down for or voted it up for? That concerns me a great deal. This just once again says to me, as it should say and has said to other citizens of our city, that our city council is not trustworthy when it comes to managing our tax dollars. When they tell us that Pot A is to be used for this item, Pot B for this item, Pot C for that item. So I have said to you before, I have said in various meetings in different locations of the city where you had Boost, Hickory representatives and city council members there to talk about the bond referendum, I verbally said, I am working to encourage citizens to vote no. Until you can prove to the citizens of our city that you are going to do what you tell us you're going to do with the dollars that are taxpayers' money and citizens' money, instead of using it for what you decide to use it for, then I again say vote no. Because to me, it tells me that we are getting money and you are raising money for a poke in the bag. You do with it what you want to do with it and not what you say you're going to do with it. So I just say to you at this meeting that we only have a few days left before this bond referendum will be on the ballot. Early voting starts Thursday and goes through the 2nd of November. So I'm hoping that you, as a city council, will be able to prove to the citizens of our city that you're going to do with these funds what you're telling us you're going to do with them, and not what you choose to do with them somewhere after November 4th. Thank you.
What Mr. Pope has said, I have heard other people say some of those same things. Generally, I think the concern was not about using the parking funds, but it was concerned about building the sales. We have never used city funds in an illegal manner, to my knowledge, in the 13 years I have sat back here. The bond referendum asks 2 specific questions, but they're broad in terms of the potential uses of the money. The voters will be the ones who decide if we had followed their wishes or not. We're not playing a game. We're not trying to accumulate money that will be used as we see fit. We are trying to accumulate money that will be used as the taxpayers and voters see fit. Anybody else have anything they wanted to say about that? Okay, motion to approve the minutes of October 7th.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Guest, second by Seaver. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That is unanimous. Ms. Patton and Mr. Meisner are absent tonight. Motion to reaffirm and ratify on second reading.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Seaver, second by Zagaroli. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That's unanimous. Anything to be removed from the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Lael, second by Seaver. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That's unanimous. For clarification, I would like to ask, we have approved use of money for parking. Do you have any idea what the net effect of the additional parking spaces? Let's allow a certain amount that we may grant to the Friends of Hickory. How many total spaces are going to be added? I mean, Transportation Insights, they're going to be releasing the spaces there and availing themselves of the other spaces. We're not going to end up with a net loss of spaces, are we?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Mr.
Are we adding spaces?
Yeah, you're adding 148 spaces.
Less whatever we give.
Well, I'm sorry, 168.
168, less whatever we give the Friends of Hickory.
Right, which is 18, I believe, in that parking lot.
So,
It's a net gain.
okay.
Public parking.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. Mr. Berry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One informational item, and that is to report Mayor Wright's travel to the North Carolina League of Municipalities General Government Legislative Action Committee meeting, which was held September 23rd in Raleigh. Under new business, you have no public hearings this evening, and you have a couple of departmental reports. The first departmental report, I'll call on Ms. Tanya Marshall with the accounting firm of Martin Starnes, who recently completed the city's audit, and city staff put together the comprehensive annual financial report, which is sitting in front of you. And Ms. Marshall will present to you the findings of the audit.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Tanya Marshall, an audit manager with Martin Starnes and Associates, here tonight to present to you the audit results of your 2014 audited financial statements that you have with you. This is a pretty big book, but I'm just going to hit a few highlights for you. Our audit opinion on these financial statements is unmodified, and you also have an unmodified opinion on compliance, so no material weaknesses noted in internal control. An unmodified opinion is the highest level that you receive, basically a clean opinion on your financial statements.
And that's compliance with state and federal regulations.
Correct. Yeah. And also any other
grants.
Right.
Yeah.
We do wish to thank the staff for their cooperation during the audit process. They worked very, very hard to not only prepare for the audit, but also to prepare this comprehensive annual financial report in front of you. And one item to note, the general fund unassigned fund balance did increase $442,282. Just a summary of your general fund revenues and expenditures compared 2014 compared to the prior year. Had $44.6 million in revenues compared to $42.9 in the prior year, and $41.2 expenditures compared to $40.5 in the prior year. A summary of your fund balance of your general fund. For the past 3 years, your total fund balance went from 31.8, 32 to 34 million. Now the unassigned portion of that fund balance is 11.9, 13, and 13.5 in 2014. Your capital reserve fund balance for financial reporting is included in your total. And that's one of the largest differences there between your total fund balance and your unassigned fund balance in the general fund. The next few slides go through some key highlights in the general fund of your major revenues and expenditures. One of your largest revenue line items is ad valorem taxes, and those went from $23.5 million in 2013 to $24.2 in 2014, roughly 3% increase. Your other taxes were $12.9 in 2013 and increased to $13.4 in 2014. That's mostly local option sales tax. Your restricted intergovernmental revenues, these are from federal and state governments. 2013, $2.2 million to 2014, actually went down a little bit to 2.1. And these are your expenditure lines for your three major expenditures. Public safety, almost 21 million in 2013, and again pretty flat at 20.8 in 2014. Your general government expenditures, 5.5 million to 5.2 or just under in 2014. Your expenditures for culture and recreation increased from 5.7 to 6.6 from 2013 to 2014. And those were the major budgetary highlights from your general fund. This slide shows you your major enterprise funds. You can see your total assets less the total current liabilities of each fund to show you the total working capital that you have. For your water and sewer funds, $20.1 million. your transportation fund, $888,000, and your solid waste fund, $2.1 million. Now, your unrestricted portion of your cash that's included in your total assets for your water and sewer fund, just under $19 million, your transportation fund, $737,000, and your solid waste fund, $2.1 million.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why would the unrestricted cash be, for the solid waste fund be greater than the total working capital?
Well, your working capital is a component of your assets less your current liabilities. So you could have assets there that are not non-cash, like receivables that are generating working capital. Yeah. And also your restricted cash is included in your current assets.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
As we spent $1 million more on cultural and recreational. Huh?
Stadium.
The stadium. I knew there had to be an explanation for that $1 million, and it was almost exactly $1 million. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Guess and I, representing the audit committee, representing the council, met with the staff and with the auditors. And we also had, as is customary and we think wise and desirable, we had a private meeting of just representing the council with the auditors. And I'm pleased to report that this year's audit went very well, and we have a cooperative staff. We have no huge issues to worry about. But I will tell you, we need to always remember, the number one control is not the audit. It's what our staff does every day. That's our number one control. But thank you very much. Appreciate you.
I'd like to add to that, Mr. Mayor, the document that you all are looking through, we appreciate the auditors, but they don't actually do this document. It's Melissa Miller, your finance director, and Amanda Stanley next to her, and their staff. I know y'all don't get all the credit, but a lot of it, who actually do all the work to compile all the financial statements that are then audited by the auditors. So this document is actually their baby. They put all this together, and we greatly appreciate the long hours as the audit's being done. Not only are they dealing with the auditor's questions, but they're compiling the financial statements, and they're here at all hours. And they just do a fantastic job. We're thankful to have them, appreciate them very much, and their staff.
The Government Finance Officers Association puts a seal of approval on documents that meet the standards. And how many consecutive years have we gotten that seal of approval?
18.
18 years consecutively. This will be submitted for approval over the coming months. And how many years has our budget gotten the seal of approval? It's a little more, isn't it?
20. Yeah. We've got about 2.
2 years. Oh, okay. We're here in the budget side speaking. But I will say that is commendable. It is, I think, an important thing for our citizens, our residents, to take pride in. But there are cities and counties and school boards who get the awards for this lengthy disclosure, but the numbers aren't so good. And I'm proud to say we get the awards, and our numbers are darn good too. So I'd like to just congratulate and thank the staff for another good operations year and another good reporting year. Thank you.
Next department report, we'll call on Mr. Wood to come to the podium and present the financial report. So the audit is looking at the fiscal year that ended at the end of June, and now Mr. Wood will look at the quarter that we're in right now in the current fiscal year.
Mayor Wright, members of the City Council, Mr. Berry, Mr. Crone. I noticed my nephew snuck in on me. He's a member of the new member of the Youth Council, St. Stephen's representative. So, and he told his dad, my brother, the first thing that he was going to do, this is a true story, first thing he was going to do at their first meeting was make a motion to fire the assistant city manager.
Motion denied.
Fortunately, we have two of them, so but I'm sure he was talking about me. And I told him I'd get him back, and now I got you. So, anyway.
Motion denied.
Well, he must have. He must have failed for lack of a...
Tell him to leave the council members out of it.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is follow up on the presentation that you just saw. What I do, or what staff does when we get the audit, just hot off the press, it's still warm. I flip through there and I'm looking for a number of different things. Very simple. It's an intimidating document. There's a lot of numbers in there that you'll never understand, but there's some simple things in there that we really do focus on and use. The first one is, as the auditor told you, we got an unmodified opinion. That means it was a clean audit. It's that simple. There weren't any issues. The financial standards were met in the statements they received, and we were good there. And a lot of cities, or some cities, don't get an unmodified opinion, but we did. And as she said, our unassigned general fund balance increased by $442,000. Now she showed you another fund balance number that was about $35 million. The general fund, unassigned fund balance is the one we focus on. That is your cash that is not obligated for anything else in the general fund. So don't focus on the $35 million, focus on the $13.5 million that she showed you. Now, this year, it increased by $442,000. Last year, it increased by $1.1 million. And if you remember, when we adopted the budget this year, we relied a little bit more on fund balance, about $900,000 more. And the question was that Mr. Lell asked the question, are we going to put money, if we'd make this appropriation of $900,000, are we still going to put money in the bank at the end of the year? Well, the answer is yes, and there's how much it was. Otherwise, it would have been $900,000 more. So that was, from a policy perspective, I mean, that was a rational thing to do. General fund balance percentage, it was 29% last year. It's still 29%. Your goal is 25%, so you got a little bit of cushion there. If some opportunities come up to invest in some things or economic development projects might come up, you've got a little cash to work with.
Couple million.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's not $13.5 million.
No.
It's a couple million above our target that we have.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we always look at. And what the general fund percentage, what that means is that the city can basically operate for 3 months on the cash that it has in the bank if it had to. And it's about that. And we also use it for investments and have investment earnings and that sort of thing.
You said 3 months. That's 9 months.
29%.
275 days?
No, this is something different. Let me do this. What I'm getting ready to show you is something
But we
different.
can't use the cash on hand.
No, but the 29% is in your general fund. If we didn't receive 1 red cent for 3 months, you would have enough money to operate for 3 months. Okay. This next number is something different. This is looking at the city as a whole: water and sewer fund, general fund, solid waste fund, everything. And the number of days that you could operate the city as a whole is 275 days. Now that decreased from 289. That fluctuates every year. We try to be between 260 and 300 days in that range. So between 70 and 80% of the year that we'd be able to operate if we absolutely didn't have any revenue, which doesn't happen. But
is that just with legal transfers, or are there questionable transfers?
Well, there'd probably be a little
questionable.
Well, and it wouldn't come to that because obviously if we reached that sort of scenario, we would really clamp down on spending and that sort of thing.
We'd have to. The local government commission would be all over us.
Correct. So. But those are some of the things we look at. A couple other things. The city's total net assets. What are we worth? So what we own minus what we owe. It increased by $744,000. So the total net assets of the city of Hickory is $206 million. I mean, it increased incrementally over last year. We did not see any growth in the property tax base. 2 years ago, or last year, we grew 1/2%. 2 years prior to that, we dropped about 2%. So we've been holding steady at about $4.7 billion for the last 4 or 5 years. Of course, we have revaluation coming up, and that'll be a different discussion at a different time. And this is some good news. Our property tax collection rate increased from 96.2% to 96.9%. For every 1/10% that we increase that, we get $25,000 more in current year collections. We went 10 years seeing a continual incremental climb for 10 years. The last 2 years we've seen improvement in that. So that's a good sign.
But there's still a lot of people who owe us taxes that aren't on the books. They're not on the accounting books, but legally they're on the books, right?
Yes. for 10
If they
years.
sell their property,
Yeah.
we're going to get the money, right?
Yes. Yeah. So with that, those are some of the things staff looks at when we get the audit, just to kind of cut through all the haze. So let's take a look at where we are with 3 months, being 3 months into the fiscal year. So the fiscal year is 25% complete. We'll start with your general fund, which is a $46 million fund and about half of the city's total budget of about $90 million. To date, on the revenue side in the general fund, you've received about 21% of your budgeted revenues. The average says we ought to be at about 19.6%. So on the revenue side, we're doing a little better than what the 5-year average says, which is good. However, on the expenditure side, when you look at spent or encumbered funds, it's just over 30% of our budgeted expenditures have been expended or encumbered. The 5-year average says we ought to be about 27.6%, so run a little ahead of things there. However, when you take the encumbrances out and just look at revenues over expenditures, no encumbrances, we have spent $500,000 more than we have collected. The 5-year average says we ought to be at about $2 million. Now keep in mind, that's a good number for this point in the year, because most of our revenue, the majority of our revenue in the general fund is property tax revenue that we get December, January, February. Does that make sense? So we're relying on that fund balance for cash flow during this time until we really start our property tax collection in the months ahead. So we're actually in pretty good shape on the bottom line. Any questions so far? Okay. Just switching gears, looking at the water and sewer fund. That's a $20 million fund, about 25% of your overall budget with 3 months completed. You've received 19.5% of our budgeted revenues. The 5-year average says we should be at 22%, so we're running a little bit behind there on the revenue side. We have spent or encumbered 22% of our budgeted expenditures, and the 5-year average says we should be at almost 28%, so we're doing better there. So again, bottom line in the water and sewer fund, taking out encumbrances, revenues just purely over expenditures, we have collected about $670,000 more than we've spent. The 5-year average says we'll be about breaking even. So on the whole, in the water and sewer fund, through 3 months, we're in good shape. And this is an abbreviated presentation tonight because we don't want to overdo you with audit and finance report. So any questions?
Let's talk about that collection rate again.
Okay.
Go back to that is the collection of the current levy?
Current year collections, yes.
So actually, the number gets higher because we're also collecting some of last year's and the year before.
Yeah, when you go back, when you look, and that's in the audit, there's a page that has that. It actually, and I think it actually can exceed 100% when you look at penalties and that sort of thing.
Right.
So yes, so that's a great point. That's current year collections for the previous year.
At this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the mayor's saying, you know, if delinquent taxes will continue to be collected for a period of 10 years, so as Mr. Wood said, you actually will get to you get very close to 100%, and sometimes with fines over, it might just take 2 or 3 years to work through a foreclosure, to work through something like that before the taxes get collected by Catawba County and remitted back to the city.
And the county does a great job of collecting property taxes. They to be commended. I mean, when you look at their collection rates compared to other counties around the state, it's high.
And part of that's our good people.
Yeah.
We pay our taxes.
People pay their taxes.
Any appointments? Petitions and requests? Matters not on the agenda? General